Welcome back to the Sad Song Queens podcast. This is part 2 of our interview with the head and the heart. I'm Laura Webb.
And I'm Lindsay Wolfington.
So, Linz, I thought we might want to do a little sync up, maybe even work edition, since we sometimes don't talk about our day jobs.
Sync up about sync? What?
About music supervision and those things that we do when we're not podcasting.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting about what we'll talk about a little bit is we have a Christmas movie coming out called Jingle Bell Heist. It's going to be on Netflix. It comes out November 26th. But we finished it last January. And this is like what happens is sometimes it takes a year or two to work on a project and actually get all the pieces together and mix it. And then still it's another year before the world even gets to see
And
it.
I feel like we worked on it for almost a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
And listening to Christmas music for that entire time, I'm glad that I had a break from listening to Christmas music. So I'm ready that we're getting into the holiday season. I can listen to it with okay now.
Well, it was also one of those movies that was like, it definitely takes place at Christmas time, but how much do we want to lean into the Christmas music? And I think that was pretty minimal, and then it became more.
And hot take, do you think Die Hard is a Christmas movie?
First of all, I only saw Die Hard like a couple years ago. I would say yes.
Okay.
I think most people do. What about you?
No, I don't think it is.
No?
No.
I don't think it began as a Christmas movie, but I think if you associate it with Christmas, then it becomes one. Like Edward Scissorhands isn't a Christmas movie, but it takes place at Christmas and
I don't
it feels
think that
Christmassy.
one is at all to me.
Really?
No.
I mean, we watched it for Halloween.
Yeah,
but by the way, it and Nightmare Before Christmas both have Halloween Christmas elements. So I think it's a dual holiday movie.
Yeah,
both of those.
I think that one neither.
Do you think of Halloween as Edward Scissorhands?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Die Hard, I think it's like with this movie, Jingle Bell Heist, it takes place during the Christmas season, but I wouldn't say.
It literally takes place.
Yeah.
Like the 2 weeks around Christmas.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah. Well, that was an ongoing conversation we had while working on that film with our lovely director, Michael Femignari, who we worked with on To All the Boys 2 and 3. So it was really great to work with him again. And the cast is great.
He's super awesome. And it's a really well-made, Michael is a director of photography by trade first. And so it's so cinematically gratifying.
The color palette, everything, the styling, it's really fun.
And our composer was super cool.
Oh, yeah. So we worked with a composer named Steve Hackman, who is in the classical music space, but what he does is really cool. And how our director found him was Steve does these shows where he mashes up classical music with a modern day musician. So it might be like Brahms and Radiohead. I think I went to that one. I think it was
like Bach meets Drake or Coldplay meets Mozart.
Tchaikovsky or something. And it's really cool. And I remember when we met with him, he's like, their classical music is going to get left behind if we don't embrace like new generations. Because you go to these classical concerts and maybe it's mostly all the patrons are of a certain generation. So he wants to bring in new audiences,
Keep classical music cool.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so I felt like the score, it was really interesting because I think it was different at first and maybe a little like more raw around the edges. So people were like, what is this? And then I think it's one of the most distinctive parts of the film. It's turned out really well.
It's a total character and personality of the film. Yeah, and we have a screening of it tonight.
Laura gets to go.
Yeah, Lindsay's not going. I'm going.
Hi, Judy. Happy birthday. I'm coming to your birthday party instead.
Yes, her mother-in-law. She has to pick family over work.
I mean, it's what we do.
That's right, prioritizing. And it's always fun because we work on these films for so long and TV shows as well, but to see it with a crowd. And it's really interesting to see what people react to.
Yeah,
because
especially like a Netflix film that you're not going to get to do that.
Right. And so it is always interesting to see what people react to because also you've seen it so many times. But, we haven't seen it in a good 9 months. So it'll be fun to hear it all.
Good speakers and with fresh eyes.
Yes, and maybe some popcorn.
So new film alert. Laura and I worked on a film called I Wish You All the Best, which released on November 7th last weekend. It's a limited theater run. It's like such a cool film. I hope it reaches a broader audience somehow, but it premiered at South by Southwest a few years ago. It's based on a book, and it's a story of a non-binary kid who comes out to their parents and gets kicked out of their home and what happens from that point and the friends they make and
the relationships
experience
they get into.
Yeah. And it's a close, intimate look at what that feeling of not feeling like a boy or a girl might feel like, and how do you work through that as a teenager? Tommy Dorfman directed it. She did an amazing job, and it's a really important time for this film to come out, and I think it's a really touching story. And the music's really good.
Yeah, so the cast is amazing. It's Corey Fogelmanis is the lead, Alexandra Daddario,
Cole Sprouse.
Lena Dunham, in a really fun role. Might be one of my favorite roles I've seen her in. What we talked about with Tommy for the soundtrack, we really wanted to feature LGBTQ plus artists, non-binary artists. We got Sophie's Estate to say yes. So we have a Sophie song in the movie, and King Princess, Licky Lee.
And the little Indigo Girls at the end, which was super fun.
And by the way, if you've seen the movie, you'll know we actually did put it in before Barbie ever came out. And we did have the conversation, but we had already finished the film. Oh no, should we take it out? But Tommy and I are both from Atlanta, and Indigo Girls are very big in our hearts. So it was right for the film. But we didn't know that Barbie was using it. So.
Yeah. It is one of those things that, like, does Barbie own it now, or can we use it too? And we can use it too.
Yeah. And we hope you enjoy it. And go if you can see. I wish you all the best. There is on their Instagram page the theaters that it is playing in. It's really a short, limited term. And then I believe you can purchase it to rent, like, via an Apple or something like that. So we'll double check and get back to you on that.
Cool. Okay. Welcome back. We were having so much fun talking with Charity, John, and Kenny that the time just flew by, and we haven't even dug into their favorite sad songs. So that's what today's episode will be about, and all the stories and sentiments that go along with them.
Never dull ever hearing what are the songs that move people.
So grab those tissues and let's get back into it with the head and the heart, because you always need a good cry.
Lindsay had said that you all wrote a song for Virgin River for her.
Oh, yeah. Yes, that was me. I'm sorry it didn't land, but it was so awesome. And I'm still it's still in my back pocket somewhere.
Cool. Yeah, no, it was a cool process. I don't think I'd ever really done anything like that. Lindsay, it was really nice to have like someone in communication, because you almost served as like a producer who's kind of reflecting back the parameters, but also like a gut check of like the larger context of something, which is when you're writing your own song or with a collaborator, you guys are having those conversations, and it kind of maintain your bearing, like no matter where you are at sea. And so I did not anticipate the relationship to be that. It was very like comforting to have. You were very honest and very comfortable being honest. I don't know. I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but I just didn't expect it to be that human of a process. So thank you.
Well, I really appreciate that. I mean, Laura knows that actually I've been doing this for almost 25 years now, and Laura and I started working together like 10 years ago. And since then, we've worked on movies that have needed original songs, or we worked on a Nickelodeon project called Monster High it was a musical. So all the characters were singing songs. And I really love the original songwriting process. So getting to be that backboard for you is like a joy for me. And I think I always say, I think it's because I like secretly wish I were a songwriter. So I'm like, oh, this is my chance. And I know my shows, I can give feedback about like what we need.
It's never too late to start.
All right. There's a seventh member of Head in the Heart.
Yeah.
Well, hey, again, I mean, we're going to have the next handful of months pretty open. So if any opportunities for instrumental or songs come up, give us something to work on.
Absolutely.
No, we love to hear that, because some people like the challenge, some people do not. Having those confines, I feel a lot of artists do respond to that, because it's like, oh, great, I don't have to draw from my whole life. I can just focus on this. But I was listening to it again last night. Lindsay had shared it with me, and it's a really good song, where I put on my head of like, oh, this would have been good for this. Oh, yeah. And Lindsay's like, oh, good call. Right. So
yeah,
that's the thing. Sometimes we have these songs made, and maybe we'll think of it for another project too.
I mean, that happens a lot.
And that's such a good song that I think we will, if you're open to it.
I was actually, when you got the new album, I was like, is it on the new album? Like,
the first song, there was sort of like with the sun, Lindsay's was Sunrise. So I was like, oh, is that inspired or...
Yeah, I mean, when I moved up to Seattle before this band started, this is my first band, by the way. I never, I always loved the idea of it, but I never sang, and so I didn't think it was like a possibility unless I happened to meet the right people, and I did. When I moved up there initially, I thought, I'm going to spend I always wrote instrumental music and I wanted to get into film scoring and that whole world. And then this band that kind of accidentally happened, fast forward 16 years and here we are. But I still would love to get into that world at some point. So if you ever need any instrumental stuff, I would love to take a crack at it. It's still a passion of mine.
That's cool because I also read in your bio, it talked about how the last song on the record was originally just like Kenny's piano track.
Aperture, yeah.
Aperture,
that was,
yeah.
That was just a bunch of piano music that we kind of eventually added lyrics and some melodies over it. A handful of songs have started that way.
And just to wrap up the original song thing, John, I'm glad that was a positive process for you because especially when it doesn't land, I think we're always a little bit like, oh no, I hope they like that and would want to do it again, that I didn't ruin anything for them and all that stuff.
No, I think simply it taught me something that I feel like I've also heard Charity echo is more and more kind of coming to terms with when the process is like a beautiful journey and inspiring, and it has more lasting effects than what you initially thought was the point of it, which was one song. My takeaway from that was like, wow, I just learned so much and got to work with somebody who, if I ever do this again, I now know what I think the standards should be, and I'm gonna know when those aren't being met. Like I actually really enjoyed the process so much more. And two, like the song, I remember thinking like at some point when doing that again, because I personally have never really done something like that. It's a bit narrower, and they really are trying to get it to land in this perfect little place in the show. And so I was like, I'm not seasoned enough to feel confident making creative changes that I don't want to do just so it gets in this show. So I left in something that I probably left. It may make it less fitting of this song, but I didn't want to jeopardize what I thought was making it a more interesting song for a show. So I also just appreciate the honesty of yeah, it didn't make it in the show, but it was so fun and I just like writing songs. And so it didn't make the show, but I feel like it made a great song.
And that's our balance too of also being like, you got to do you. You got to make sure this is something you want to put your name on at the end of the day. And we got to make sure it works for our project. And in a perfect world, it hits both those,
Yeah, we want your interpretation. It's you and your sound, but then how do you make it? It's that fine line of how do you make both?
Yeah.
Can we talk to you all about your favorite sad songs?
Please, I've been dying to hear Kenny and Charity's, and I get to share mine. Yeah,
I'm curious if any of yours are the same.
I know, I too. I almost
honestly, there's a chance.
Kenny, you want to kick it off?
Oh, it's tough because I racked my brain for a few days. In my mind, a sad song can mean so many different things. It can mean that it sounds sad to you, that the music is sad, and maybe the meaning isn't even that sad. It could be instrumental music. It could be that lyrically it's meant to be a sad song, or it's a sad topic, or it could be tied to something in your life that makes you feel sad. The first one I picked is less known, but and this is in that category of a song that is lyrically sad. It's from the singer's perspective of his own life and going through a hard experience. And when it was released, it came out in 2003. It's a Sufjan Stevens song called Romulus. It was on the Michigan album. Came out in 2003. I was 15 years old, and I had an older sister who was really in tune to cool music, so I was lucky and was listening to Wilco at 13 type of thing. I was had an edge because I had this older sister who was showing me music. And when Michigan came out, I think I was a freshman in high school, and it's about his mother going through addiction problems and leaving the family and them visiting her, and her just not being there, not being who she once was, him being ashamed of her, this and that. And at the exact same time that this song came out, I was literally going through the same thing. My mom was in and out of rehabs when I was in high school, and I gotta preface it too with that she's amazing now, and she's she got her act together, and she's the best grandma on earth, and I love her to death. And I hold no hard feelings towards her from this time in any way, even though it was really difficult when I was going through it. Because I think, if anything, it just shaped me, and I don't think I would have become as introspective or as much of a introverted, deep-thinking person if it wasn't for those years, because I felt very alone. And, my older sister was old enough to have been out of the house by the time all this was happening, so she wasn't really affected by it. I kind of went from being a happy family of two parents and me and my sister to being a single child with no parents, because my mom was so off and not there anymore because of what she was going through, and my dad spent all his time trying to clean up her messes, and so it was just a drastic, sharp change in my life from 13 to 14, and that kind of rode through all of high school. That's when I started rebelling a lot and also playing music a lot. It's like the artist in me was wanting to come out. But yeah, this song, just because of the timing of it and how connected I felt to the story and the words when it came out, has always hit me as a really important song to me, and a song I love. I think it's beautiful, but also a sad song.
I'm so sorry for all that. My kids are 13 and 15, so I'm like very much what I love about you talking about that is the way it spoke to you and the way you connected. I think that's how we feel about songs sometimes. And the ones that become the most precious to you are the ones that, oh my God, someone knows exactly how I'm feeling and I don't feel so alone.
They find you. That's what's also fascinating, is the times in your life when you really needed them.
Oh yeah, it was like perfect timing. And again, yeah, it's like, sad time in my life when I was in it. But as John said earlier, every sad time in your life is usually like followed by joy, and I feel like without the lows you don't have the highs, and so I really like wouldn't have it any other way, even though at the time it was difficult.
All right, what else?
Another one I had that's a very well-known song, very popular, and it's one of my favorite songs of all time, just kind of hits on some really sad ideas, is Paul Simon's Slip Sliding Away. It's one of my favorite songs ever, but it's vignettes, the first being a man who's like he says, like, I wore my passion for my woman like a thorny crown. He like is like so in love with his woman that it's become his own identity, and he's losing himself. That in itself is a sad thing. The second verse being, this lady who, a good day's when there ain't no rain, a bad day's when I lie in bed and think of things that might have been. A lady who made bad decisions throughout her life and just lives in regret, which is terrifying. And, I think as successful as the band's been, I still have a lot of that for my own life. The third being, a father who is not in his son's life. And the verses, I drove a long way just to explain the reasons for the things I had done. And I kissed my boy as he lay sleeping and turned around and headed home again. That always hit me right here really good. And then it kind of wraps it up in the fourth verse by just explaining that we all believe we're gliding down the highway when in fact we're just slip sliding away. And it's like everybody's life is complicated. Everybody's life has these things that they think maybe are unique, but they're really not all that unique. I think it's just about looking at the bright side of things and trying to work through things and not giving up. But yeah, that song touches on some sad topics, but I've always just loved it. I think it's gorgeous too.
I love also that we all know exactly what Hit Me Here means.
Yeah. And even just talking about the song, I get chills. That's a song that I've listened to it 1,000 times, and I always get chills at some of the lyrics, no matter how many times I've heard it. And even just thinking about the song, I have a visceral, physical feeling, that I get. And I think that's why I love it so much.
There's certain songs that just the first few notes and you're already like misty.
Yeah, I had one more I could just be really quick with. This one's a little more, less of like I don't know, I just always thought of it as a great songwriting. It's She's Leaving Home by the Beatles. It's right smack in the middle of Sgt. Pepper's. It's just harp and a string section with Paul's voice, and John kind of sings the like call and repeat. But it's a true story about he read it in a newspaper, this article about a girl who had ran away from home. And it was in the mid 60s when culturally, there was just this clash of like, the parents having grown up, during the war, having been through a lot. And then there's these young kids growing up in the 60s who, want to experience more and want to leave and live their own life. And this girl had, ran away and was missing for a while. And he read this article about her. Apparently she ended up just going back home. It's hard to explain it all. It is just a sad story in general. It was a girl that wasn't loved. She had everything she ever wanted given to her. She had a car and a mink coat and jewelry, and her parents, thought that by buying her things and by giving her what they believed she needed, that was them showing her love. But she really never felt the love and was just longing for that. And so she ran away and tried to start a new life somewhere else, ended up coming back to her family. And this is the true story, coming back to her family, and then they had even a bigger rift because they just didn't understand one another. The parents couldn't understand why the daughter would ever leave them and why what they had given her throughout her life wasn't enough. And she couldn't understand why her parents couldn't love her for real and just needed to shower her with gifts to show that. And I just think musically and lyrically, I always really love that song. It's also in the middle of this insane record, Sergeant Pepper, that's so like bombastic and big sounding, and then you have this one track that's just like strings and a harp, and I just always thought it was beautifully sad. Apparently, too, it's the first song that they decided to work with a different producer instead of George Martin. So they had somebody else, I don't even know his name, but somebody else like score the instrumentation, and apparently George Martin had like his heart crushed that they used somebody else, because it was like an instrumental song. It was like his right in his wheelhouse. He thought that would be kind of like one of his tunes that they would go to him for, and they chose somebody else, or Paul did, for that one song, and then they never worked with anybody else again throughout the Beatles' career. But I just always like that kind of tie-in, that George Martin was also like super sad that they worked with somebody else.
It's one of his saddest songs, apparently.
Yeah.
Now, next time I listen to it, I'm just going to be thinking about the heartbreak of
I
George
know.
I know. And one more thing, too, I thought was cool. I was actually just watching like a YouTube video about the history of the song. I mean, I've always loved it, but I just wanted a refresher. And apparently it's kind of interesting that like the time in the Beatles, they just stopped touring. They'd gotten so famous they couldn't tour anymore, and they couldn't really go out even. They spent like days on end in hotel rooms even at times. And so a lot of songs, I didn't notice this, but a lot of songs on Sgt. Pepper were inspired by news articles, because they weren't doing anything. They were literally just stuck in home, like reading the news and listening to the radio, and that's where they were getting their inspiration from to write songs. There's like Good Morning, Good Morning, there's Day in the Life, there's She's Leaving Home, all on the same record, and they were all just inspired by news clippings, because they weren't actually out like living life, because they no longer could. And I think that tie-in is just an interesting like cultural thing to know. Yeah, I mean, those were three that just came to mind.
Were they on anyone else's list?
Not mine.
So far, so good.
Okay.
You want to go, Charity?
You go.
Okay, so Sigur Rós, the album parentheses, came out in 2002.
We're all nodding our heads.
Yeah.
Cool.
I almost picked the Sigur Rós song, so
Me
I'm glad I
too.
didn't.
Yeah, but every song on there is called like Untitled 1 through I think 8 or something. And then I just chose number 2, Frista, because to be honest with you, I never really only listened to one song. Like I guess I was probably 20, I think, when this was happening. And I would always listen to the entire album, usually at night. And it was weird because, and again, this is, I think, what made me think of like, was it sadness or joy, or is it just the same ball? Because it was a really beautiful, it was one of my earliest like experiences of loving this girl, and we didn't get to see each other all of the time. It's so funny, it sounds pretty petty when you say it out loud, but like when you're 20 and you finally discover what love actually feels like, and you're so obsessed with it that you can't fathom being away for like a day even, or a week, and so I just remember like at the time I was sort of in between places, and I was living that week with this one guy who had bunk beds, and so I was like living in this bunk bed and just listening to like that record in its entirety in headphones, just like bawling my eyes out. But at the same time I was like really happy because I had experienced love finally. So to me it was like both sides of like utter connection, but also just such sadness of having to take breaks from that feeling when I wasn't able to see this person. So that was that song.
So she wasn't coming over because of the bunk beds? I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, actually, probably. Like, let's be real. That's probably exactly why she wasn't going over.
And there wasn't plumbing, so,
Yeah, well, it was like, I don't even need to get into how weird of I've lived in a lot of weird living situations.
You can talk to Moby about that. He can go toe to toe with you.
Yeah. Ooh. I mean, God, let's go into play that whole album play. But so the next one I chose is Tim McGraw. I'm a huge Tim McGraw fan. So this will take me back to high school, I guess. And there's a song called Somebody Must Be Praying for Me. I think it came out in like 98. And it's just like I don't even, if the song played, I would probably be singing every single word, but right now I don't even necessarily remember the verses. But again, it was just kind of like that time of my life that was very like tumultuous, and I didn't know where I was going to land. And but I could just tell like everybody had their track, like they were like on track for something, like college or a job or something. It just seemed like everybody had life kind of planned. Like the next step or two was like pretty well decided, and I was just like, shit, I got no plan. I got no plan. I'm in a different place pretty much every other month. So yes, I mean the title of the song, "Somebody Must Be Praying for Me." So all these different vignettes, and so I would just kind of like at least feel like there was an odd confidence I had that my internal compass like was gonna guide me to the right place. I just definitely wasn't there yet, and I didn't know when I would be there. So I had this odd security in a way, feeling like it would be okay, but not really knowing when the other shoe would drop or something. So that song, it just kind of being like something or someone is definitely like, praying for me or whatever. So again, beautiful, but also like tears of joy, well, no, those were just straight up tears of sadness back then, actually.
But see, it worked out.
No, totally. And that's the weirdest thing is like, even when I was at that age, like at that age, I didn't know how to play music yet. I was not a musician. So it's not like I was like, oh, I'll just find a band. Like I had no idea I would ever even find music. So the next one I chose was by the Cranberries. So I moved from Florida to Virginia when I was 12 and a half. So seventh grade. And I remember making like mixtapes for this girl Rhapsody that I had a crush on. And she was so cool. She was like too cool.
Cool name, dang.
I know, right?
Where's Rhapsody today?
Yeah.
Call in.
I don't know. I hope she's doing well. I hope she's doing well. And so I remember just basically like making mixtapes, basically all Cranberry songs, but in the order that I emotionally wanted to convey. But so I just chose Dreams, which like is again to me like almost like a triumphant, but like I feel like I'm sort of standing in like a hailstorm, like I'm gonna persevere, but like currently I'm getting pelted with balls of ice, that kind of a feeling. I have a very strong visual of just experiencing cold weather for the first time. My family had not been living full time with my dad always being around because he was kind of going off and doing these welding jobs where he would go and do like 3 months in a different state because it would pay more. So like we're now all together under this house as a family, and it was just like I'm fucking 12 and a half. I am not the easiest child to be around. My dad is like not the easiest man to be in a home with children around. And so it was not going to go well. And so fortunately, I had the woods. We had moved to this area that was butted up against like two little small ponds that would freeze over, and we could go get lost in the woods. And this is before cell phones. So like helicopter parenting was not, at least not in my house. So I could just go out there and like get lost. And I remember just like witnessing snow for the first time. So the Cranberries really came into my life where I like just was looking for someone to give me that like tapestry of like, give me something to fucking cry to. You know what I mean? Give me something to also like rage to like feel triumphant to. And I just feel like the Cranberries just they cover all of that within one song. You can like you'll start crying, you'll get mad, and then you'll feel strong again, and you can come out just like cleansed. It was like the coolest wash of what I really needed, as an outlet at that time. So
And her voice has everything you're talking about, right? She like rages, it cracks, it has that emotion to it. But
yeah,
Dreams, again,
yeah,
I would put in like kind of the Rivers and Roads, like hopeful sad vibes.
I agree.
It is too. I
Yeah.
mean, some songs like that that do sound. I mean, I've always been so guilty of that. I like naturally, I've always just been so moved by like melody and the music side of things before lyrics. I love great lyrics and I love reading them. But I mean, there are a lot of songs, that I would say were some of my favorite songs of all time for years before I actually knew what the songs were about or read all the words. And I think I've been guilty of that so often. Like, Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. Love that song. I always thought it was a love song. It's like super sad. Harvest Moon, it's like I mentioned that the other day in like a VIP thing. It's just like a sad song, but I always thought of it as like the perfect love song. And I think Dreams is one of those as well, where like I think of it as this like I'm taking over the world, everything's perfect and everything's beautiful and great, but it does have so much more to it, and there's so many layers.
And the harmony, all my dream, like I don't know, that like space that it holds gets me here.
That's true.
Totally.
Yeah, and like Sigur Rós, it's the beauty too, right? It's just so beautiful that you feel like awestruck.
Right.
And the depth. I feel like because I found that time where like I was also discovering like what seemed like true love, it was just this like almost terrifyingly deep well that you could almost fall in and get lost in. It was like kind of terrifying.
Sigur Rós is like one of my favorites of all time, especially in high school. Those years, loved them to death. The first time I ever heard them in my life, I was at my friend Jamie's house on his bunk bed. And I spent the night. He had a bunk bed, and I slept on the bottom. He slept on the top. He put on the Parentheses record and like went to make some breakfast, and I just laid there and listened to it by myself. And it was the first time I'd ever heard it. But it's just so crazy that I have this clear memory of being on a bunk bed by myself and just being like, "What the hell? Like, what the hell is this music? It's amazing, But yeah. So somehow our stories are tied.
That should be their like marketing for their 20th.
The bunk bed
Like,
experience.
Yeah. I know. Charity, do you have one like that?
I know. That's what I was saying. I got to rethink.
No bunk beds, sure.
Thinking of bunk beds, yeah. Yeah, Sigaros, I was close to putting on. Have you guys heard of Wandering Boy? It's from a modern Randy Newman record, like 2017. Oh.
Ooh, no, but I will listen because I love Randy.
So this song has to do with, and I was reading about it because I didn't know the history really, but it was inspired by a similar titled song from like the late 19th century. It has to do with, from the father's perspective, worried about his estranged son, and he hasn't seen him, and this wandering boy, and wondering maybe he's homeless and it's just like Randy and piano, and it just so sad, so piercingly sad, and just that idea of, that kind of parent and child relationship, and as they are gaining independence and becoming who they are, and then they wander off, and the wondering, what's happening in this wandering, and it's just so beautiful. And I recently read that Randy actually performed this at Glenn Fry's memorial.
And I agree, the parent-child stuff always gets me.
Which leads me into my next kind of pairing, I guess, which kind of went down a deep dive of Bill Withers, his whole catalog upon his passing and in COVID. And we had our first child in COVID, and 2 songs of his from the Making Music album is I Wish You Well, which is not really a sad song, even lyrically or melodically. In our cover, in Maddie and my cover of this song, we sang a cappella to our baby as we were just about to leave the walls of the hospital. And we had a lot of like health complications and stuff. And just singing like, I wish you flowers, sunshine, and smiles. I wish you children that grow to make you proud. I wish you pretty things to wear and sweet things to smell. I wish you well. So in our cover of it, it was pretty sad, I would say, but also that beautiful kind of hopeful, married to that hopefulness. And another song of Bill's, which is from the Justments record called Liza. It's his kind of letter to his niece. And it's just him and like either Wurlitzer or Rhodes, this kind of warbly, distant sound, and his beautiful vocal. It's singing to his niece these kind of beautiful paternal sentiment. And I think for me, I pair both of those in how they make me feel so emotionally sad, because they're almost like these acts of service and kindness. Yeah. It's just like, wow, someone is not thinking of themselves and being kind and empathic in this, set to this very lonely kind of production. A lot of it is like this lonely production and the longing in the vocal and the voice. And that pairing really is like so beautiful to me. And then I grew up with classical music thanks to my mother, and I now play classical for our children all the time. And 2 of my favorite songs, which I would say fit perfectly in this category, are Camille Saint-Saëns from the Carnival of the Animals, the Swan Song, as well as Claude Debussy's Clair de Lune. There's a loneliness with the Swan Song, and it's the cello and the piano. And I know that there's even this like solo ballet called The Dying Swan set to it, which is just this kind of heartbreaking loneliness and depth. But Clair de Lune, I feel like it takes me on this journey emotionally, where I also feel joy and lifted up, like I'm being cleansed. I'm feeling all the myriad of what it means to be human. I think that to me is one of the most perfect songs of all time. And there's no words, And then I'm going to end with Joni Mitchell, Both Sides Now, which for me, I also bring it up because where I was at in my life, it really spoke to me and resonated because of a placement in Love Actually. What a perfect, powerful placement of a song and moving picture, and that just song, I think, deals with existential kind of conversation, internal conversation too, and for me, a lot of songs, even like Finally Free, I think of on our new record, is so much dealing with that kind of internal existential back and forth, and that wrestling and kind of coming to a conclusion that's still open-ended, but really getting to who we are that makes us identify as human. And it's that kind of really getting to that place where you feel safe and allowed to feel the myriad of it all.
You know what was another really great use of that song in film was at the end of Coda.
Yes.
You ever see that, Chair? Just like that movie crushed me, but it's like film about like deaf family with a daughter who's not deaf and wants to be a singer, and this and how to, not understanding that. And then she performs that song at the end, and it just made me bawl the first time I saw it. It's so
Totally. The parent-child relationship again, too. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets you.
I love how you guys have touched on all sorts of things. We didn't really throw you the question, what makes a song sad, but you've kind of touched on it. A lot of it is the story behind it, or when you heard it, or the strings, right?
The purity, the
performance.
Mm-hmm. Well, this was really great. And this is our first one with 3 people on.
Charity with her list of 6 songs. I'm like, I think we have another sad song queen in our midst.
It's beautiful.
I think when we got the email, they reached out to us about this, and I think it was like, which 2 of you would like to do it? And I really just wanted to do it because I thought it'd be such a fun thing to be a part of. So thanks for allowing 3 of us to do it, because it was really fun.
Well, thank you guys again.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for joining us today on Sad Song Queens, because you always need a good cry. We will link these songs in our show page and our Spotify playlist. Please like, comment, and subscribe wherever you find podcasts. Huge thanks to Charity Rose Thielen, Kenny Hensley, Jonathan Russell, Tyler Williams, Chris, Sasha, and Josiah Johnson. Our friends at Warner Chappell Music Publishing, Virgin Music Group, Crush Music, Lauren Ronaldo, Gianna Palante, and Eric Olison.
Special production thanks to Stephanie Gangle, Avery Piantadosi, Rob Carter, Jordan Lindsley, and our producer May Rogers. Our theme song is All My Favorite Songs by Weezer, and our outro music is by Wyatt Rouse.